Greetings, Internet. Welcome to Aaron Plays. In this episode, I would like to look at the Pacific War Malaya Campaign Scenario. I will be playing the Allied forces against the Japanese, played by another player, SteveC. We've played through this up to the end of the first battle cycle. So we've gone through the contact phase and such forth. And then we paused the game at this point. I was running a log as we were playing, and I've asked SteveC if you didn't mind if I did an episode of this, going through up to that point. I have no idea what he builds in his task forces, so you'll be seeing it purely from my point of view until the battles actually begin from the Allies. So there are certain restrictions in this scenario. For a start, that as the Allied player, I can't, I'm already reacting. So the Japanese automatically conduct the first operation. There's no operation play determination phase. The operation intelligence conditions automatically surprise attack. These are scenario special rules. And after the first operation, the normal sequence applies. No Allied search attempts can be conducted at greater than 2 hex range until an Allied unit is attacked, and no Allied cap can be conducted for the first battle cycle of the first operation. After the first battle cycle, the normal sequence applies. Okay, so for the Japanese to win, there could be no Allied ground units in Malaya, which is defined as anywhere within 4 hexes of 3908, which I believe is Singapore, which is here. Okay. The Allies win if there is an Allied unit anywhere in Malaya, and any other result is a draw. I'm not sure how you can get either there is a combat unit or there isn't a combat unit, so I'm not sure how a draw situation could occur. So the Japanese forces are all set up as you can see. Okay, and my forces are here. I did have a few random positions I could place some of my forces, say random. I could determine where they were actually going to be. So I'll show you my force display. I cannot show you the Japanese one. Let me just bring up mine. Here we go. Allied forces. Right. So, force 1, which is here, has just got a brigade. We look at one of those counters, the white number is the activation cost. This is the troop quality. This is how many steps are in the actual unit. So force 2, which is here. There are, that's an Indian brigade, and with a little bracket number under there, it's telling me that there's 3 steps remaining out of the 4. It could be, again, the troop quality is only 3. The middle number is a flak, so it's troop quality, flak, steps, activation cost. Force 3, which is up the top there. Okay. Again, a brigade. Force 4, which is here. Okay, so there are an Indian brigade, no flak. There's a level 0 air unit. So what does that actually mean? Okay, so it's the weakest you can get. Level 0 is the weakest. It's already got 2 hits. There's only 4 steps of air units there. That's its activation costs. That's its air-to-air combat. If I do activate it, it shows its other values and ranges and such forth. We'll come to when I actually activate. Force 5, which is right at the top of the map. Another brigade, quality of 3, maximum 7 steps. It's got 4. There. And then force 16, which is Singapore. There's a fort in there, a HQ, a large air base and some infantry in Singapore. This aircraft unit is a T-type, which is a tactical, so it's a twin engined. Activation cost of 2. And also there are 3 naval units: the Repulse, the Prince of Wales, and some destroyers, which will become Force Z if I set them up as a task force. So those are the forces that I've got. I know the initial setup as according to the scenario in each of those hexes, but that will change as we go through. So we know they've got some battleships, cruisers, aircraft, and such forth. But I'm not going to reveal those until we get into the situation where they do become revealed on the map. Okay, so that's the hypothesis that I'm going to make in this episode. We'll be completing, or nearly completing, the first full sequence on, let me just bring up the force display or display sheet. So we'll, in the campaign sequence, we'll do the weather, strategic intelligence, blah, blah, all the way through. We actually will finish at the joint activation, deactivation phase here of this first cycle. Then the next episode will be those 2 points and then going back over the battle cycle. Because once we're into this battle cycle, this is repeated until the operation is over, completed by the Japanese player in this scenario. So this is not really a solo scenario. This is me playing against somebody, but you're just going to get my narration, my version of events as it unfolds. Hopefully it'll be interesting. We shall see. So following the sequence of play on the chart here, first thing that will happen is the weather. So I will be stepping through. So this says weather yellow rolled for December, and it's a 1. So we look at the weather chart. The scenario is occurring in the Southeast Asia. Weather is an optional rule. We decide that we're going to use it. It's December with an 01. We know it's clear. So bringing us back to that area of the map. Okay, so we then, the next step, okay, on here is strategic intelligence. Now, really, this is not that important at the moment because we know that the effect is a surprise attack, but we still roll the dice. Okay. Pulled out the markers and such forth. I made a strategical intelligence roll, which gave me our strategical intelligence as 3. But again, it's not going to have much impact because we already know that it's a surprise attack. So moving along the sequence now, so we've gone to command points. So the Japanese start with 41 command points, and I've got 10 as the allies. They don't have to make a bid on the first round because we know that the operation player, again, as defined by the scenario. So I don't know how many of those 41 points that Steve is actually going to be playing on this particular operation. He could spend all 41, but he doesn't need to. Yeah, and keep clicking the phase until something happens on here. Okay. That's just, yeah, you're just moving the actual turn marker on. There is a turn marker here, which goes through the steps, so he's just keeping that up to date. We don't have to worry about merchant shipping and such forth. So we got to the, we know how many command points he's got. So I could move it along here. So he's going to isolation. Okay. And we go to, we had a little discussion about isolation. Strategic transport, he decided not to do any. Then on to reinforcements. There are no reinforcements in the first turn. Naval repair, none. Replacements, again, none in the first turn. Engineering, didn't want to do any. There's no submarines in this particular scenario. Operation player determination. We know that the Japanese are the operational player. Okay. Operational player determination, yeah, to activation. So now he decides what he's activating. So this is where he's spending command points to activate units on his displays. And as you can see here, he's created a task force. Again, I don't know what's in there. And he's also created a task force here. Okay. Goes to the next step, which is operational intelligence. So if I wasn't a surprise attack as defined by the scenario, this is where I would make a roll to determine if I know what's happening. There's a, which actual chart it's on. Open a second. It's this one. On the display, it is, yeah. I just bring this up. So the operational intelligence table is here. So we know it's a surprise because it's been defined by the scenario. If it was the next operation in the campaign, which there will be one, we would take whatever my strategical intelligence is, which if I flip is level 3, and then we would roll a dice. So what we could say is, before this all started, I'd already rolled an 8 or a 9, which says it's a surprise attack. His attack is a surprise. But in the next operation, it could be an intercept, could be an ambush, or again, it could be a surprise attack. Okay, so that's, let me just minimize that. Yeah, I'm working with 2 screens here. Okay, moving on. Now clicking right. So we now move to the operation player contact phase. This is where he'll be moving up to my forces with his. And as it's a surprise attack, I can't actually stop him moving until I detect him. Depending on the operation, if it would be an intercept, I could have stopped him at pretty much any point. But as it's a surprise attack, the limitations are that he can keep going until he wants to end his operational contact phase, or I can detect him or detect one of his forces. But I can, as again by the special rule, I can only detect up to 2 hexes away from my units, from my air units, effectively, because everything else can only search the hex they're in. So as I only have air units in my force 4, which is here, and my force 16, which is here, I am limited effectively searching out to about, well, up to here until, so I can't stop him moving until that occurs. So let's see what actually happens. So we know he's activated some units. I don't know exactly what he's activated. And the operation is now moving into contact. So this uses this box here, or the actual, whatever this is called, the operations display. So the operation display, we are looking primarily at the day track, which is over here, and at the present moment, the naval movement track, which is here. Let you know that and bring it out as and when required. As we are in the operation player contact phase, he has a choice here to do up to 3 things. He can move his ground forces, naval forces, and air forces. His air forces can't move within 2 hexes of one of my air forces. His naval uses that naval contact, and his ground forces can do 1 move, up to 6 movement points, or it can embark into ships, which I think is what he's done. He's embarked some units. He did. See, until we get the next, we're just setting up displays at the present moment. Once it's set up, I'll show it. Right. So by using the word he's doing his ground, but he's also set up this display now correctly. So the operations begin at the beginning of the month. That's the day, op begin. And then there's 3 op end markers. Now the operation could be either a 14, 21, or 28 day marker. I don't know which they are. In fact, I don't think I'm even allowed to flip them. Oh, I can flip, so I could cheat if I wanted to. On the opposite side of those, there's 2 that say dummy and 1 that says op end. So I don't know if it's a 14, 21, or a 28 day. A bit surprised that I can actually look at that, but okay, got to be a good boy. All right, so there's either a 14, 21, or a 28 day operation. I, at this point, don't know. So he's done his ground, and he declared it that no other ground was moving on the map other than stuff embarking. Then he did air, or declared air, but I don't think he actually. Okay, so showing something happening in that hex there. Actually, I think he was just showing examples here. Yeah, nothing actually happened. This is where we're having discussion points about rules. There are quite a lot of discussion points about rules. I must admit, I read the rules in preparation for this, the full core rule book. Thought it was quite clear. And to start playing, there was quite a few gaps that I can see. But mainly talking about the air moving here. Is it become visible? Does he have to actually place it on the map? It doesn't say if it's hidden movement or not hidden movement, which is a bit vague. When you do an air mission, you place the air counters on the map and you move them. But a ferry air mission could be up to, well, if you look at the range of this actual aircraft, it's got 10, so it could be up to 10, well away from anything that I've got on the board. Does he have to place it on the map? As is, this is the contact phase. It doesn't say if it's hidden or not. So we sort of house ruled it that he doesn't have to actually place them on the map unless it goes within 2 hexes of one of my forces. And I then declare that there is actually an air unit in there. Then he would have to show it. So that's a little house rule because we couldn't determine if he actually had, in the contact phase, actually had to place the air units on the board. Whereas in the mission phase, even though it's way out over here, he would have to place them. Again, sort of contradict each other a little bit there, rules wise. Again, we're just doing examples there. Then he does his naval. So this is the naval contact phase. So this is the last of the three, and this is one which uses this display here in conjunction with the day-night track over here. So every time this is a reaction to, I want the actual operation. Every time this marker moves into a gray box, the day marker moves one space. Okay. So initial search, we do searches at this point. So he's doing a search. I'm not allowed to search because we're sitting on the beach thinking this is lovely. Lovely time of year. And everything's peaceful. We're not expecting a surprise Japanese attack. So he's declaring what's searching. Showing what could search. So this is a little code that Steve likes to use. So force 16, that's this here, is searching force 4. All searches in the contact phase are treated as days. So he doesn't have to declare what's doing the search. He just tells me the result. So he rolls a 6. Nothing declared as a success. Then he's doing force 4. Looking at my force 1. Rolls a 2. And he declared that you could see something there. I think 1 hex TF, 1 hex task force. Okay. Oh, he started the first hex of the task force movement. So even with the 2, he's not declaring that he wants to see anything there. So I assume the search was unsuccessful. So he then moves. Why does it this? Let's minimize that a little. Let's bring it down a little bit, or it's down too much. But okay. Move that back up. So he's now moved that box into the grey there, which then moves the day to the first day. Okay. Which then means these 2 task forces he's got on the board can each move 1 hex, which he's then done. I can't search for these because they're not within 2 hexes. So there's nothing I can do at this point other than just watch and learn. Okay, so we then move on. So every time that we do one of these hexes, so that this moves a box, or the end of each, so I should clarify that, at the end of each, they call it an impulse, or whatever word they use. Every time this moves into a box, you move the naval forces, you can then search again. Okay, so hence why he's doing a search. Force 16 to force 4. Again, rolls a 7, no success. And now he's doing second hex of the task force movement. So he's moved from the 1 to the 2 there. And task force has moved. And he declared that he didn't want to move that task force again at this point. So I presume waiting for the backup from task force 1. But as yet, I have no idea what are in these task force. Or 16 again, because every time you can search. With a 0, he's found something. Okay, so at that point, I had to declare what was in my force 4, which is 2 air units and a ground unit. He's now doing the 3rd hex of their movement. See, Task Force 1 moves again. Task Force 2 moves again. Searching again. Okay. Force 16 against Force 3. Force a 5. Not able to detect at that. Force 16, but I think he had 3 searches coming out here. Hence why you've got the red detections on these, which means basically me telling them that there's ground units but no air. He's got 3 aircraft searching out of here, so each aircraft can search its own hex. Force 16 against Force 5. Order 1. Hence why it's got a red detection on it. And that one, it's very difficult to see. That's got a blue detection on it from an earlier search, which gives a bit more information. An F-16 versus Force 16. My guy's there. No level detection there. Now, so as you can see, this is constantly creeping up as he's moving. That's now moved into the 4, which then should have moved. He hasn't done it yet. I think I had to remind him to do that. No, he has just done it. Let's now move to the 2 spot. Okay. Force 16 again. Looking at Force 3 of mine. Not good enough detection. Force 16 against 16 gets a 2, which is enough. 5 hex range. 5, yeah. Well, he's just moving the 5th hex. So obviously 2 wasn't good enough there, was he? No. I think at this point, so we can now at the 5th box, we're still day 2. Task Force keep moving. He's looking at Force 3 still. No, look at Force 16. No, can't determine anything there. Moving their 6th hex. Moving forward, searching. Yeah, Force 3, 0. He gets detection on their nose. That's gone to blue. I think at this point he worked out what everything was because he's seeing, and I think he started even stopped searching for 16 because by deduction he was able to work out what I actually had in there. So the only thing that was in doubt was where my air units were. 7th hex. Force 16, yeah. 8th hex. So we're now, so the 7th hex has moved it on to day 3. We're now into the 8th. I still can't react at all. I haven't been able to detect because he's got nothing within 2 hexes of my air units. 9th hex. 10th hex. Which moves us on to day 4. And this is still all the operational contact phase. 11th hex. 12 hex. Now the task force are sitting here and here. And he ends the contact phase at that point. So we now go this part here to the reaction player activation. I actually can get to choose, even though I haven't detected anything, I can actually activate units. Whoop, whoop. Excitement. So we know there's Japanese out here. We just haven't detected them. We know they're on the way, but so we decide to activate some forces. So clear the movement trail. Okay, so this is where I activated some stuff on here. So I thought, well, I'm going to play it historical. Might be not the wisest thing, but let's Task Force 1, or Force Z, repulse the Prince of Wales. We know there's Japanese on the way. Let's see if we can cause a ruck. That's my thought processes anyway. Next step, I activated some air units. Have a look at the activation costs. So they move to the activated side of the force displays. And I didn't activate any infantry. So the activation cost total for me was 7. I spent 7 points. This is my display here, showing my HQ starting with 10, dropping 7 points. So I think I made a mistake. I should have activated a few of these infantry units, because I think they're now going to get. What happened there? Let's pause that. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, I think I should have activated a few of these infantry units so they could at least pull back, but I didn't do so. So hopefully I can get to that before they get clobbered by the Japanese. Because at this point, as yet, I still don't know where he's going to land, if he's going to land, which one of these has got the actual troops. Again, I suppose I could determine it if I really, really wanted to look at what was in Force 2. Oh, you know, what's in the actual scenario notes and what started here. But I haven't done so. So one of those two, I know that force came from there, and that force came from there. So, well, we shall see. Right. So next up, after my activation, otherwise come back to weather. It should be the reaction player contact, but because it's a surprise attack, I can't do any contact. I can't move my forces. Okay, so we now go to back on the display. Come on. Okay, so reaction player contact is none. So we'd actually then get into the battle cycles where it's the lighting condition. And now this operation will stay in the battle cycle sequence. So it'll go all the way through this and then back again until this operation is completed. So I don't know why I want to get right, light roll. So as the operation player, he can place the lighting condition anywhere on here, or because this is the first battle cycle, or again that's because it's surprise, or he can just do a roll, and at some point in one of the other battle cycles, the next time the lighting, he can move the lighting condition 2 space. Normally it just moves 1, but he could move it 2, as he's not, well, he's going to make a light roll rather than use his once per mission, sorry, once per operation. He can shift it 2 spaces. So the light roll is 1, which we look at on here, makes it night. Which he's done on the display. Okay, so now we do advantage determination. So, right, so moving the sequence on here. But because it's surprise attack, in the first battle cycle, he automatically, as the Japanese in this scenario, has the advantage. Normally, from every battle cycle from now on in this operation, we'll roll a dice. Again, because it's surprise attack, the Japanese will get a +2 modifier. The side with the highest roll is the advantage. If it's a tie, even after the modifier, the operation player has the advantage. So in the advantage determination, Japanese have the advantage. Okay, so we now go to advantage movement. Now, in the advantage movement, you move ground and or naval, and you choose which order you do. You don't move air units. Air units are moved in the next step, which is the advantage air missions. But remember, it's night, so I can't see he'll be doing many air missions at night. In fact, you can't really, the only thing, I don't think you can do any air missions at night. You can search, but that's not an air mission. So, okay. Later on in the war, that you do get some night fighters, but not at this point. So he's doing naval first, so not ground, he's doing navy. Initial search, so it follows the same thing. You're doing a search, and then you do 1 hex of movement. Then you do search, then you do next hex of movement. But whereas in the contact phase, each force can search per hex. In this, it's a phase. Each force can only search once in a phase, even though it's moving 2 hexes still. So 1 hex. So he's not doing it. There was no initial searches, so he's just moving 1 hex. Okay, now this puts that within 2 hexes of my force 4, which has got an aircraft. So the word mid here means he's doing mid search, because you can do a search after each hex of movement, or before each hex of movement. Okay, so we're doing searches. So I did force 4, trying to find task force 1. Rolled a 4. It's not good. It's night searching. Is these nice little tables here. I can bring it up. Let's see if I can bring that up. Because each force searches slightly differently. Allied Navy, Allied Infantry, Allied Display. No. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe that's one of the things they kept out of the vassal module, so you must have the game. So, well, I do have the game. So Allied searching is coming from my force 4 is the long range air unit at 2 hex range at night needs a 1, 0, 1 or a 2. So rolling a 4, no, is not good enough. Moving through the sequence and continue. So his second hex of movement. Okay, so they've now entered the coastal waters of that hex, which is called what? Singora. Okay. And final searches. Okay, he seems to have jumped on before. And then he does his ground, where he landed. I think at this point I said, wait a minute. Oh, that's right. I couldn't search again from here to here because I'd already searched in the first impulse. I remember it. I use the word impulse. These words are all interchangeable. During the, whatever this phase is called, the advantage movement, each of my forces can only search once per in the advantage movement, each of those hexes. And he failed in the first, couldn't do it in the second. If it was doing it in the contact phase, I could search each hex. But in this is not. So he's done his ground. So he did his naval movement there and he landed his ground in this hex here. So there was no amphibious assault. There's none of my troops here. However, we had a big discussion about can he place a OSB here? So operational support base. The rules are a bit vague. I've actually raised a question on Board Game Geek. Hopefully we'll get an answer, but we decided to house rule that he could. So I think there's, I'm just waiting for it to. Air missions, he decided not to do any air missions. So going through the sequence, advantage movement. We then go to advantage air missions, none. Then we go to the naval combat cycle. There is no naval combat because there's no naval forces in the same hex as each other. No combat 1, combat 2, combat 3. Bombardment. There is no bombardment. So let me just bring up display so we're working through. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Bombardment. Demolition. And I decided at this point, well, we know there's Japanese around. We still haven't really detected anything. But I decided I want to try, and I don't want the Japanese to take these air bases if possible, because there's an air base in each of these hexes. So I don't want them bringing aircraft from over here and here and bringing them closer. So I want to see if I can knock them out. So demolition force 2, and this requires a roll equal to or less than the troop quality. So force 2 has a troop quality, that's the first number of 3. So I need to roll a 3 or less. No, of course not. Roll a 5. Demolition force 2, force 1. Force 1 has got a troop quality of 2. 2 or less. Am I? No. Okay, going well so far. We can't do, still sitting on the beach. I then put demolition 0. I think I was actually meant to be 0.3. It was 0.3. So, and they've got a troop quality of 3. Yes. So I removed the airbase there. And feather out, actually do it and put the force back. Boom. Okay. So that was taken out. Then what's we got? So after demolition, ground combat. Well, there is no ground combat because he's not in the same hex as me. Not sure what he was rolling a dice there for. But this is where we had this discussion about the OSB. Does he place it? Does he not? We house ruled it at the present moment as yes, until we get a definite answer on Board Game Geek, because the rules say it's got to be an amphibious assault. What is the definition of amphibious assault? It says against an enemy ground unit. There's no enemy grounding unit. So as rules as written, no. There is definitely no ground assault there. common sense would dictate, well, they brought the supplies. Why can't they place the supplies there? That's what an OSB is. So that's common sense. Mr. Herman, the designer of the game, has mentioned somewhere in one of the forums that, yes, you can place an OSB because you've arrested a mayor. What does that mean? It's not in the rules. There's no clarification thereafter. Please clarify. But with house ruling at the present moment, that common sense would dictate. Of course, they're going to land their base. Otherwise, why didn't they land here? Because then you've got half your troop quality, haven't you? Maybe that's the point. I don't know. Forcing you to actually land, but it didn't seem to make sense. So hopefully there'll be a clarification, and hopefully I'll mention that clarification in the next episode, because we get drawing to the end of this one. So ground combat to airfield repair. So again, we're going through sequences here. That should have gone into ground combat. Airfield repair, there is none. Next step, rally. No one's broken, so no need to rally. Disadvantage movement. Yay, I get to move things if I wanted to. I declared naval. Search at night, or NIT. I have a problem with G's on my keyboard. So from Force 4, okay, to Task Force 1. So I'm still looking for a low roll, and I get it. I needed a 0, 1, or a 2. I have detected Task Force 1. He revealed to me at that point and it was it's called a Class Red classification, which means he can tell me, reports the number of naval units to Task Force plus minus 50%. He said 4. So that could be 6, or it couldn't be 2 because that would be maximum 3. So it could be 3. There's between 3 and 6 ships in Task Force 1. I, of course, went detected because I was excited. 4 naval units was his declaration. I then moved. Don't want to engage them. Okay, so he then does Task Force 1 to Task Force 1. I believe he must have a spotter on there. He failed. Okay, this is when I was talking about ground movement, because I thought, oh, my ground units move, working out that the ground cost for that's mixed, that's 6, that's 2 movement points. I'll now do some illegal moves until I realize, wait a minute, I haven't activated those guys. There we go. Oh, naughty. And then I put them back, realizing, because I haven't activated them. There we go. Foolish man. Okay, disadvantage air missions. I don't want to do any missions because it's still night. And then we go to, I should put this up on here, the disadvantage air missions. And then we go to the joint activation, deactivation. At which point we decided, I don't think there's anything, end of log file. So we ended it at that point because he's still obviously got some command points left to spend, and technically I have as well. So it was it might seem quite quick clicking the way through it, but we had quite a lot of discussions. We did play for nearly, well, it was 2.5 hours. So to get that point, which was interesting, the amount of rules discussions, working through the points and such forth. There are obvious gaps in the rules that I've seen, but we were at the point where I know there's between 3 and 6 ships in there. So asking me, do I want to start a new log file? No, quite happy with that. Okay, so I know there's between 3 and 6 ships there. And he hasn't detected me. These detections are going to be removed soon, but at least I have that information in my bag. And I know there's ground troops in there. Again, not sure what strength they are. So I've got 3 points of my 10 remaining. So I will probably activate these guys to pull back. I don't want to fight whatever's in there at this present moment, and try and engage whatever's in there. So the next step will be looking at here. So we'll have the detection removal, so that removal will be done. But we've got joint activation, deactivation, so he can activate some more units. And then the day marker adjustment, he'll have a choice of either, let me just bring up the day marker adjustment point on that. Where is it? It is. So on here, we're still in day 4. That will go to day 6 in a moment. Well, in the next video. So he has a choice of moving it. It'll automatically move 1 step, or he could move it 2 steps and make another roll. We'll assume he'll want day AM. So he'll be happy with moving it 1 step because he'll want to engage this naval unit of mine here, probably with some air forces, but that is to be seen. Okay, well, that's the end of this episode. So we're planning to play on a weekly basis. So hopefully I'll be able to do a video of this. We played this earlier this evening. I've now shot this straight after the game, and hopefully I'll be able to do and keep up at that rate. So if you've enjoyed the video, enjoyed what we've done so far, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. All helps the channel. And any comments, anything, especially about our rules discussions, if you've got answers to the things that we can't answer, well, that would be most useful. Until next time, bye, Internet.